Good afternoon. This presentation analyzes the process of adjustment and adaptation in the middle of adulthood and early adulthood through a quantitative interview with a 64 years old woman. According to Feldman, adulthood is not a period of psychological decline, but one of restructuring, consolidation, and meaning making. Likewise, Triadon and Celdran emphasize that successful against involves flexibility, emotional regulation, and adaptive family reorganization. The findings from this interview reflects several key developmental process characteristics of this stage from a cognitive perspective. The participant report that her decision making has changed over the time. She described herself as more analytical, rational, and slower her thinking. This is consistent with research on adult cognition, which indicates that while processing the speed made a slight decline, analytical reasoning and crystallized intelligence tends to remain stable or improve her responses, suggest increased reflective judgment and reduce impulsivity. When interpreting the past family conflicts, she now perceives them as events without importance. This indicates cognitive reappraisal and a higher order executive function associated with emotional maturity and perspective thinking. And her professional experience and social relationships were identified as learning contexts that strengthened her analytical abilities. And this aligns perfectly in lifespan theories that highlight experiential learning as a central mechanism of adult cognitive growth.
Emotionally speaking, the participant mentioned experiencing sadness and anxiety when her children left home, which are common emotions within the emptiness transition. However, her current emotional state reveals acceptance and meaning making. Regarding physical changes, she expressed that aging is logical in life and does not affect her self image. Even when mentioning her Achilles tendon limitation, she contextualized it without catastrophizing the situation. This reflects adaptive coping and emotional regulation. Research in adult development shows that older adults often prioritize emotional stability and focus on present oriented well being. Her strategy of living day by day and enjoying the small things suggests a shift toward the existential appreciation and reduce future oriented anxiety. Family dynamics in middle adulthood require a structural reorganization. She reported that the responsibilities have become lighter, with less trauma and fewer emotional blockages, which indicates emotional integration and reduced reactivity compared to the earlier life stages. A significant experience was caregiving for her parents, which she described as painful and traumatic. Caregiving in middle adulthood is frequently associated with stress and emotional burden, particularly when the support system is limited. Additionally, the death of her husband about a year ago represents a major life transition. She described the relationship as emotionally intimate, spiritually connected, and deeply affectionate. The grieving process places her at the intersection between generativity and integrity, as conceptualized by Erickson. Despite widowhood, her narrative does not reflect despair, but rather reflective appreciation of shared meaning, which suggests adaptive mourning rather than pathological grief. When asked about aging, she described it as a stage of accumulated growth, not only physical, but also emotional and spiritual, where everything becomes more peaceful. This interpretation aligns with models of positive aging and existential integration. However, she expressed that society does not value older adults and often perceives them as a burden. This perception reflects broader sociocultural ageism and may influence identity construction in later life. Nevertheless, she remains socially active through walking, theater, and sharing coffee and conversations. Social engagement is consistently identified as a protective factor in successful aging.
Resilience and adaptive resource. The grass challenge she identified was not being able to perform tasks as easily as before. This reflects awareness of physical limitation without loss of agency. Her protective resources include emotional support from her children, feeling admired and valued, affection and understanding, personal determination, her advice to adults transitioning to retirement. Walk slowly but safely and enjoy. Demonstrating psychological integration and wisdom from an Ericksonian perspective. Her narrative reveals strong generative and emerging integrity from a lifespan developmental framework. She illustrated adaptive flexibility and meaning focused coping. Conclusion. In conclusion, this interview demonstrated that neither adult and early older adult involved complex but normative process of adjustment. Cognitively, the participants showed reflective reason and analytic maturity. Emotionally, she exhibit acceptance, present-oriented, well-being, and adaptive mourning. Socially and familiarly, she has restructured roles while maintaining meaningful connections. Rather than decline, this stage represents consolidation, integration, and essentially coherence. Thank you.